It turns out they can't handle a bunch of CNBC moderators. If you can't handle those guys, you know, then I don't think the Chinese and the Russians are going to be too worried about you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Obama having his fun. Joining us now, as promised, Rick Santorum, former U.S. Senator and Republican presidential candidate. Hello, Senator.
Yeah, you talk about the pot calling the kettle black right there. I mean, this is ridiculous. The president avoids every tough interview, won't go on Fox News, gets really prickly if anybody dares to ask him a tough question, and has been the absolute. You talk about a punching bag for Putin and for Xi and for the Iranians. I mean, this is a president who can't handle any foreign leader, and to have the audacity to challenge Republicans on this outrageous conduct by CNBC is just classic Obama. I mean, here's a guy who is the epitome of not standing up to tough leaders.
I couldn't agree with you more. It'd be one thing if he was tough with with Putins of the world and the Chinese, etc., and had something to rest his laurels on.
Right.
But he's as weak as could be, and he's knocking you guys. It's incredible. It really is. Let me ask you about. I know you're in Virginia and you're about to vote. I want to get to that in a second because there's some things on the ballot today in certain places I want your opinion on. But there are two polls out today, one last night and one today. The Reuters poll has Donald Trump with 31%, a big lead over Carson's 18%. But the second poll now that has Carson ahead came out last night. That's the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, and Carson's leading 29-23 on the heels of the New York Times CBS poll. So how do you digest those polls?
Yeah, as you know, I'm not a big watcher of polls. National polls tend to not to really reflect anything other than who's entertaining the folks who are watching politics right now. I go back to what matters is what happens in Iowa and New Hampshire, and I think what we've seen is that both the outsider candidates are still drawing a lot of votes or a lot of support in the national polls, in part because they're getting the lion's share of attention in the national polls. So I'm not surprised at either of that. And again, Ben Carson, as far as I know, isn't really campaigning right now. He's certainly not showing up in Iowa. Neither is Trump. And that's where the first votes are cast, and that's where I just spent the last 5 days.
All right, but you say he's not campaigning, but Carson's leading in every poll in Iowa. So how do you account for that?
Again, I go back 4 years ago and look at who was leading in the polls 4 years ago. You had folks like Herman Cain, I think at this point was leading in the polls, and 3 months out. Before that, it was Rick Perry leading in the polls. Before that, it was Michelle Bachmann leading the polls, and none of them ever got a delegate. So I don't really worry about that. I just try to stay focused. It's like saying, if you're the Jets coach, worrying about what's going on in the stands as opposed to what's going on in the field.
Right. No, I hear you. I'm glad you used the Jets, who are in trouble now. They started off real well. But anyway, now I'm not going to. Well, first of all, what kind of cockamamie uniform were the Steelers wearing last week? What is that?
Yeah, they
what is that?
The uniforms. No, those are the ancient uniforms.
Oh my God!
They do it because they've actually played well in those uniforms in the past, but not so good. Not so good on Sunday.
All right. Let me ask you. Let me let you hear something Donald Trump said today. Let's roll his call for people to get out.
Do I think it's time to have some of the other Republican candidates drop out? Yes. There are too many people. Well, I don't want to get personal, but you can look at the poll numbers. Look, if a person's been campaigning for 4 or 5 months and they're at 0 or 1 or 2%, they should get out.
Yeah, what do you say to that, Rick?
I was at 2% in the national polls the week before I won the Iowa caucuses. And this is, again, experience is actually a pretty helpful thing. I don't go in and try to tell business people who are making real estate deals how to make their real estate deals if I have no experience in this. And so it's not surprising that someone who has very little experience in how presidential elections run, make statements that don't conform to what the reality is on the ground.
So should he butt out?
Well, no, he's entitled to his opinion. I like Donald Trump, and he's sort of colorful guy and says a lot of interesting things, but he doesn't say it, and in some cases he doesn't say a lot of accurate things. And in this case, we've seen case after case where people who are low in national polls early in races, and this is still really early, it's still 3 months to go, who can make things happen at the appropriate time in the appropriate state.
Okay, let me ask you just one more question, and then we'll move on to your opinions on some of these issues here. What do you make of the Rubio-Bush situation right now? Who got the best of it out of the debate, and who do you think is going to be your tougher opponent going forward?
Well, again, I sort of look at it as, neither of them, as far as I can see, is out there laying out a vision where conservatives can get excited about. I mean, you have Marco Rubio, who's out there talking, has been leading the charge on immigration reform, as has Jeb Bush. So I sort of see them as sort of, in many cases, two peas in the pod trying to fight over the same turf. It isn't my turf. I mean, I'm a conservative, and I'm going to run as a conservative. I want to make sure that we have immigration laws that protect American workers and are not interested in making more profits for cheap labor for the business community. And I don't think we have to pander to people to win elections. I think we have to be a party that says we care about workers. Doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. We care about making sure that wages go up. We care about making sure that opportunities for families to do better and get gainful employment is strong here in America. And you know what? If we do that, then we'll get folks from all different kinds of ethnicities voting for us.
All right, let me ask you. There's this. You're in Virginia. Some states have on the ballot these gay rights, transgender rights. There's this case in Houston. Of course, they're voting on letting transgenders use female bathrooms. And there's this case where the feds have now gone after a school in a suburb of Chicago, saying they discriminated against a transgender who's a boy who has male genitalia because they wouldn't let him go into the girls' locker room. Is this totally out of hand?
I don't know why children at that age are even, why this is even an issue. The idea that we are introducing this type of real dangerous confusion for young people at this early age. I mean, do we really care about what we're doing to millions of children who don't have gender confusion, and basically introducing the subject saying, well, maybe you should. Maybe this is something you should start thinking about, at age 7. I mean, this is really dangerous, and it's going too far, because it is having an impact on not just folks who may be in a difficult situation at an early age, but many who would never have been in that situation that now are being confronted with it.
Iowa's 90 days away, Rick, and going forward, what do you have to do? We got a minute left. What do you have to do?
I'm just going to nothing works like success. And we were exactly in this position 4 years ago. And all we did was keep our head down, work hard, meet people in Iowa, build out our grassroots network. We had, over 50% of the people who voted for me on caucus night decided in the last 3 days. And in fact, the majority of Iowans, generally speaking, decide in the last week. So I'm not worried about, the jockeying that's taking place right now. This is a demolition derby. And if you're in a demolition derby, you don't want to be the car out there ramming people early on in the race. You're not going to survive very long. So
right.
We're very comfortable where we are. I'd appreciate people's support. If they go to ricksantorum.com and help us out, we'll make it to that start line, and then we'll start to take off, which is when it counts.
You took the words right out of my mouth, ricksantorum.com. Rick, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. God bless.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You too. All right, folks, we're coming back with the Malzberg panel. No McKee Constant, Ford O'Connell should be a good one. Don't go away.